Day, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. We are back live, and today we have a very special guest. My name is Charles Smith. I'm a former NBA player turned entrepreneur, C-level executive, and I love to interview people that are able to give us undiscovered gems. Gems are knowledge and information that we don't normally hear. So today, we have Dr. Lisa Nezneski. Dr. Nezneski is a leading authority in the field of integrative medicine, bringing the benefits of traditional medicine, meditation, and the alternative modalities in a well-rounded approach to health and healing. She's a certified mindfulness meditation teacher and a board-certified pharmacotherapist, professional healthcare consultant, botanical medicine specialist, Reiki master, intuitive author, and speaker. Dr. Nezneski, thank you for joining us today. We're so excited to have you, and I think this interview is going to be fantastic. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Charles.
Now, I love to give sports analogies because there's so many parallels to success throughout all people being successful in any field. Now, in sports, you don't get better until you go through some challenges and you learn from them.
Absolutely.
So I like to say, you learn when things are erasable. You go through your failures, and your failures are written in pencil. They're erasable because you learn from them. Now, reading your background, you've had a lot of challenges in your life. We're going to get into why you're so unique and special, but we're going to start out letting the audience know what are some of those challenges you went through, and then we're going to find out what those challenges did to you.
Oh, sure. A few years back when I was a hospital administrator, I woke up in the middle of the night with chest pain. And I'm of the age that chest pain in women is not something you just ignore. You should get it looked at. So I went to the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, and I was in the emergency room. I was hooked up to all the monitors. And I noticed that when my heart when I would have the squeezing chest pain, my heart rate started to drop. Now, I'm normally in the 50s, which is my resting heart rate, which is pretty good for someone my age. But as that chest pain was squeezing, it dropped from 50 down into the 40s, down into the 30s, 32, 30, 28. And I looked up and I said, watch the monitor. And the heads turned towards the monitor, not seeing that it was my heart rate because my blood pressure was normal, my oxygenation was normal, and I said, watch my heart rate. And when it hit 28, I took a deep breath and blew it out, and it started to come back. But I looked over at my significant other and I said, this could be it. I could be checking out. Tell the kids I love them. And, I don't want to miss my life. And that started me questioning everything. And the first book I started to write is 7 Mindful Questions. It was the second book I published. But the 7 Mindful Questions is the technique that I use to question absolutely everything in my life. And I continue to use it on a daily basis to make sure that I am really focused on what's important.
So out of your that's a tough situation to be in, and you know that your heart is dropping. That's tough. So out of that, you've started questioning everything in your life. And from that, you've come up with 7 mindful questions?
Yes, the 7 mindful questions start with, what am I doing? So you're aware of what's happening right there in the moment. And the next question is, why am I doing it? With gentle curiosity, not critical of yourself, but why am I doing this? And that's the big because. What's the reason behind it? And the next question is, why do I care about this? Where does that fit into my life? The fourth is pause and breathe. And then what else should I be doing? Now, this should is something that's reflective of those most important areas of your life. The fifth question is what I call the emotional heart of the 7 mindful questions. Once you've made a list of those things that are really important, then you choose what is the best alternative. So you choose what is essential at that point. Mm-hmm. You choose. And in that choice, you're checking in with yourself as to, is this really important? Does this really matter? Question number 6 is, what can I do better? And that's the change agent. So as you're working through the 7 questions, the change agent about what can you do better, you start to think about all those mistakes you made. And you have to give yourself a little bit of grace over those. And when the time is right, you will make a better choice. Excuse me. Question number 7. I'm getting over a cold.
Oh, no problem.
Question number 7, what's the best alternative? So I came up with a mnemonic that you can remember the 7 mindful questions. So you're aware because you care, pause and breathe, and then back the other way, choose the better alternative. So it's ABC, pause and breathe, CBA. So it's the ABCs of mindfulness.
Awesome. You know, and like I said, being a former professional athlete, I resonate with each one that you've mentioned in so many different ways. You know, one thing that you said that stood out to me when you said you have to give yourself some grace. You know, we as human beings all have a tendency to beat ourselves up when we fail or when we let others down. And a lot of times there's other extenuating circumstances that have led to that. And
exactly.
But we take the full responsibility and, you know, you want to do better and you want to find a way to do better. So giving yourself grace, you need, everyone needs to do that. And it's hard to do. It's hard to do. So I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that.
So I use those questions every single day in just planning out what I'm doing for the day.
Right. So, you know.
Sorry.
Oh, no problem. No problem. I always like to understand from, you know, experts such as yourself, when you talk about doing better, what's the next thing? And you don't beat yourself up. You give yourself grace. What makes you thrive to be the best? How do you go from being good to being great? You know, you have your 7 mindful steps that you do, but what pushes you? How are you self-motivated? What drives you to be great?
Well, I think what drives me to be great is like in the musical Hamilton. He was never satisfied. You know, that's one of the great lines out of the musical is that Alexander Hamilton was never satisfied. He wrote like he was running out of time is another great line from that. And you know, now that I'm in my 60s, I start to think about what legacy do I want to leave for my family? You know, as they were growing up and we were having those difficulties, I want them to know that no matter what you experience in life, you can frame it in a way that pushes you to become better. If you use those, quote, failures to be more aware, more circumspect, more understanding of the way that you work and the way that you want to succeed, using those as, I don't want to go back to that again. I want to leave that behind me. I don't want to make those mistakes again. And that's incrementally how you do improve and become better and do become great. So it's
Right.
not an instant process. It's incremental.
Right. You've played a role in alternative medicine, and it is incremental based on what you said. But your role in alternative medicine has taken you in different areas of knowledge. One of the areas I read about that caught my attention also is your understanding of prescription drugs and how prescription drugs can affect the body in other ways, stealing the nutrients from the body at the same time. You're getting healed, but it's taking nutrients from the body. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, yes, prescription medications are a double-edged sword. We need them, but yet they can, they never do one singular effect. They always have effects in the body that are considered either side effects or, for example, let's talk about pain medication, because many athletes, in fact, require pain medication, whether it's non-steroidals. Those drugs have a terrible impact on both your gut, irritating your gut, causing inflammation in your gut while they're reducing inflammation elsewhere. And they also impact your kidneys. So long term, if you're taking those, you could really damage your kidneys. And your kidneys are one of the two primary ways that you excrete waste in the body. So it's very important to pay attention to how the drug makes you feel. Various nutrients can protect the lining of the gut, but there are alternative products that don't have quite as strong of an impact. Like, for example, you may have heard of curcumin. Curcumin is basically a spice. It's used in curry, but it's fabulous to decrease inflammation in the body. There are some other, like frankincense. We've all heard of frankincense, right? Gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Frankincense in the herbal form is called boswellia, and it also reduces inflammation. Long-standing use in Ayurvedic medicine in India, and it works fabulous. So there are a number of products that might allow you to back off on the intensity of of a prescription product and really get some relief from that.
Sure. I was taking anti-inflammatories during my career. Down the stretch, my knees would swell up, and I would, take these 800 milligrams maybe twice a day, not realizing I was overdoing it, just taking what was given to me, to the point where it did impact my kidney. You mentioned that. And I didn't realize the side effect. I ended up having blood in my urine and healed it and did the process of healing, so to speak, my kidney. So I understand how it is a double-edged sword. I didn't have any inflammation in my knees, but at the same time, I'm impacting my kidneys. So I get that. You also talk about you're a pharmacotherapist. I never heard of it before. What is that?
So the board certification exam that you take as the highest clinical exam that you could take in pharmacy is called the pharmacotherapy exam.
Oh, okay.
And so when you pass that exam, you are a board certified pharmacotherapy specialist or a pharmacotherapist. So it's similar to any of the other boarding that other medical practitioners would go through, whether you're an anesthesiologist or gynecology or whatever. It's a similar type of exam to show that you have a higher level of knowledge in those areas. So when I was at the University of Pittsburgh, we had a class called pharmacognosy.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, hail to Pitt.
We both went to Pittsburgh.
Hail to Pitt, yeah. So I had a class called pharmacognosy, which was plant-based medicine. And so that's really how I got into learning more, as Dr. Andrew Weil put out his book that when he talked about herbal medicine, and people were just going to the general store finding information about those. And I thought, these are there are therapeutic properties, and there could potentially be side effects. So to combine them safely is really an important body of knowledge that I have, that I'm willing to share with folks, because as you're taking things, you want them to interact properly. You don't want to get yourself into more trouble. So, and both medications and supplements are expensive. So that is one of the areas that I do through my consultative work with people individually.
Dr. Nezneski, I don't know whether it's my age, but what I see today is more people getting into all natural foods. They're getting away from processed foods. Everybody's looking at more herbs and less meat. And like I said, I don't know whether it's my age and I'm in that bracket that everybody's doing it, but I see it more and more. So while that's going on and people are doing it for themselves, people are starting to say, by eating better, you're less frequent trips to the physician or doctor for whatever reason. But the healthcare industry, employers are doing sort of the same. It's an alternative way. The costly insurance premiums to pay for your employees, now they want to give stipends. They want to put training workout facilities in their buildings now. They want to give people credits to work out, and you turn it in, and all these different things. And I don't know, I think it might have stemmed from the tech world. You probably know better than I, but talk about that. What do you see what's happening in our country today with our employers when it comes to health insurance and alternative practices?
Well, I think the movement is just in its very beginning, that employers are recognizing when you have healthy, both physically and mentally healthy employees, they're going to do a better job. So providing those kinds of resources for them is one way that they can help reduce their own medical premiums, because most companies support the employees with a portion of the medical premium, and then there's some out-of-pocket expense that the employee has. So it makes good business when you have healthy, mentally well people in your work environment. And I see it at my with the company that I work for, McKesson. They're amazing in the way that they provide a service that you do get points, and then the points you can get rewards for that. You wear a Fitbit or whatever. So I see that movement is coming along. But if you talk about food being your medicine, which is where you started, we have a long way to go with that. The standard American diet is something that needs a great deal of help. The Mediterranean diet is one of the healthiest diets. So if we had to look at diets that are out there, and some are fads and some are good for you, and there's keto and paleo and all these other things, but the standard Mediterranean diet with fish, lots of fruits and vegetables, it allows foods to be your medicine.
And there's these, I saw a study some time ago where the longevity in one's life in different parts of the world, where people were living over 100 years of age, and I forgot the title of
the blue zones.
Blue zones. There you go. Thank you.
Right.
The blue zones. And when they studied the blue zones, it's exactly what you said. high in fruit and vegetables, fish, a lot of exercise, a lot of walking.
Yes.
So that says something. That tells us that, living that type of lifestyle, eating that type of lifestyle does show benefits to the body and provides longevity. How much more can you tell us about the Bluestone and tell our audience how they should be living when it comes to their diet and lifestyle?
Well, you're getting into the area of functional medicine, and I'm currently working as a patient with the Cleveland Clinic in their functional medicine department. I had yet another health challenge, and I went to the clinic, and they have helped me. But as I from personal experience, in eating really healthy, my energy levels have come up. I'm sleeping better. I'm sleeping 8 to 10 hours a night, which is great. I feel like when I start to exercise that I can, I do some basic lifting and hit high intensity interval training. I like that. I can go for an hour and then I really do have to stop myself or I could overtrain. But you find that you're able to, your body is your friend in getting through the day. You're not overtired or you're sleeping so much better. Your mental awareness of how your body is feeling is so much more in tune. And so I highly recommend it, just not only from personal experience, but also I know what it can do in reading the medical literature, that it's just so beneficial.
Right. Where does your mental toughness come from? I mean, I hear you
That's a good question.
Yeah, I hear you say, every time you've said you've gone through something, it seems like you've come out of it and you've either got another degree, you increased your knowledge. It's like you absorb yourself into your situation, into your crisis, and you're learning from it, and you apply your own knowledge and you turn it into something else. That's mental toughness. Where does that come from?
Well, I guess, I'm of Eastern European descent, and there was a great grandmother in the lore that the Russians took her cow. She went and walked the 4 miles and got the cow back to feed her 11 children. So maybe it's cultural, or it's I myself. I can be very much my hardest enemy, my worst enemy, because I'm very critical about what I do, and if I don't live up to my own standards. And so my mental toughness, I guess, comes from a background where I needed to adapt quickly as a child. My mother had a mental illness, which was hard to grow up with. And so I had to adapt then and there, and learned a lot of skills about how to depend on myself at an early age. But moving on, it was, I've got this insatiable determination, and that's why I resonate with Alexander Hamilton so much, is that I want to continue to provide help to people. I have a specialized body of knowledge. I love working with people, and each step along the way was something where I learned something more about myself and the way that I want to live my life. So, I'm not a giver-upper. I had opportunities to give up, but I came through those. And I had 2 sons, and now I have 2 granddaughters and a grandson. And the granddaughters especially, I want them to see, I want to be a role model for them on what it's like to be a professional woman in the world and overcome anything that's thrown at you.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you have so much experience and knowledge. And I can't even say in your field, because it's really multiple fields within medicine. What's your passion? What moves you the most about your knowledge and what you do?
Well, I have clients that I work with that one lady in particular that tells me that I saved her job. She had 4 different jobs last year. She kept quitting jobs because she was getting in her own way, and she knew it. And so she bought the 7 mindful questions, has worked through each of the questions, and she's had the same job for like 4 months now. And she tells everyone that this has really saved her career. And that's so rewarding to hear someone who was struggling in a field where she's in a defense contractor mode. So that's like a difficult field for a woman. So she came out on the other side. So I have a program called Get Your Health, Vitality, and Peace of Mind Back in 14 days. It's really an 8-week program, but we have a quick start thing that gets you started right off the bat. But that's how I do my consultations. I help people really move forward. And that I find to be the most rewarding thing about what it is that I do.
You remind me so much of an athlete that is trying to add another tool to his tool belt or her tool belt during the off season, practicing to get better. Your biggest failure?
I guess 35-year marriage fell apart. That I consider that to be a failure, although, it takes 2 to tango. So my biggest failure beyond that. I think that I have learned to be much more compassionate in general and compassionate with myself. So my earlier self was not as compassionate, and I had very clear ideas in my youth about how I thought people should behave and what things ought to be, and I wasn't very concerned with, wasn't very, very compassionate. And now it's like people can make choices. It was their choice to make. It was their path. It was their path to learn, not mine. But I can support them through that process with what I have learned in my life.
Yes, you are such an athlete. All I heard from you, the only thing that came out was you lacked a little emotional intelligence because you were just driven and you just cut through the chase and you got stuff done. So if anybody,
that's so true. So true.
If anybody wasn't on board, you were going full steam ahead, reaching your goals and whatever you need to do. So you said a few things. I was like, oh, she's such an athlete.
That's a huge compliment from you. I really appreciate that.
I don't know. But now, look, where do you see the world, or where do you see the U.S. going forward as it pertains to, medicine? Base it on your knowledge. You have a vast pool of knowledge. Pick one thing, and where do you see the country going? In what direction?
So pharmacy in general is it has a lot to do with infectious diseases, and we've come through a huge challenge with infectious diseases, several different ones, monkeypox or mpox, I guess now is what it's referred to as, and COVID and the flu and RSV, you name it. Those are things that are going to continue to be challenges. And the way that we manage those as a population, I think, is something that will either change to respect the experts, or those who don't will, by natural selection, fall away, unfortunately.
Wow. I knew this interview would be good just based on your background and how much I resonated with you. And it seems like our time is just running out. Thank you for being a part of our podcast. And Dr. Nezneski, thank you for providing us undiscovered gems. Thank you.